Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of our Stars and Stripes and Maple Syrup. Before we get started, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, send your granny the Zoom link, whatever. We'd love to get more people listening in to our points of view over here in the USA. We have David back with us. David is living currently in Maryland. David, thank you for jumping on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's be honest, it was a bit of a dull game today. I think all of the action really was last 10 minutes, but a good result. I'm not going to complain about a 1-1 result against the Luton team who haven't been beaten away from home since early December.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, it's hard to talk about the first half, really. It was that dull. I thought we bossed the first half as much as any team could. We had a number of really good chances. I think Dan Neil hit the post.
Yeah.
But as we were just saying before we jumped online, like normally on a Saturday morning, we'll have the North American branch. We're all on Messenger and we're listening to Sean complain about how Kirill Lewis-Dreyfus is skint and we should have got a striker in 7 windows ago, but there really wasn't much to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. I think he hit the nail on the head. There was that shot that when he let fly, I thought it was in. I jumped up and then it hits the outside of the post, and yeah, I mean, it was a well taken opportunity, but everything else was kind of few and far between, right?
Yeah, I think that first half for us was a game of inches, because 6 inches to the left, and we're celebrating a 1-0 halftime lead. There was the Roberts broke through, got around the back of the defense and squared the ball to, I think it was Gelhardt was in the middle waiting for it, and just 6 inches to the left again, and the Luton player's not able to clear that, and will be potentially a 2-0 up. So
yeah,
it was annoying at the same time as it was encouraging. I mean, I thought that we were going to be completely bossed by Luton for the entire game. They're a big physical team who like to press, and they just didn't seem to do that today.
Yeah, they really sat off. I think on the commentary it was mentioned there, that it seemed like they were really sitting back and just letting us, have the ball in midfield, but with very little attacking threat, right? And that's just been a common theme over the last few games. I think Gelhardt has started to have more of an impact. He's coming way too deep at times. But the way he holds up the ball, that was one of the notes that I made in the first half was, when he was collecting that first ball, he was laying it off to Barr or to Roberts and doing a good job letting us get out of the back. But again, it was few and far between. I mean, when he did it, it worked, but oftentimes we were just hoofing it up.
And for me, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, I remember how we were when Niall Quinn retired. We didn't change our approach to the game at all. We're still hoofing it up as if Quinny was still there. And today we were still playing as if we had Ross Stewart and Sims up front at times. And it's annoying when you see it happening on a week in, week out basis. And you're like, well, why can't they make the change? Why can't they tactically adjust? I mean, Gelhardt dropping back and picking up the ball is not the worst thing in the world if you've got Barr or Roberts who are running up for the layoff. But yeah, you were right. They were coming far too deep. And then had no one when the ball was played off. It's like you're now expecting them to turn and run 50 yards to get on the end of something. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is I was on Gelhardt watch because I wanted to see, is the lad just not as good as Leeds were and the papers were touting him to be? Are we just not playing to his strengths and bringing him into the game? I touched upon it last week that I just felt as though maybe we're not bringing him into the game the way he needs to be brought in to be effective. And look, his movement is really good. He does drop deep to kind of link up play the way that Stewart does. But I think I've seen more and more, especially in this game. Look, we know that Roberts and Clark are going to cut in and take their shots.
Yeah.
But there were 7 opportunities today, and 5 of them in the first half, where Roberts and Clark cut in, and the better ball was to lay it off to Gelhardt and give him the opportunity, and they took the harder option and tried a shot. Obviously, none of it came to anything because neither of them won the score sheet. So
Right.
I have some sympathy for him with regards to that. He's making these movements good. He's making those good, intelligent runs, but the ball's just not coming to him inside the box. And look, with the best one in the world, neither Clark nor Roberts are exactly the best crosser of the ball. How many times did we see the ball just float aimlessly like across the face of goal with nobody anywhere near it, never alone to a player? And then everyone's going to remember the fact that he had one chance in the second half where the ball came across, and look, he took a heavy touch, which made it bobble, and then that ball just didn't seem to want to come down and give an opportunity to shoot, and he drags it wide. So I don't think he had a bad game. Definitely not. I was looking on the ratings from Roker Report, which I always take with a pinch of salt. But whichever tosser did the ratings today gave him a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, there were a lot of comments, I think, as the game was going on from Roker Report about, and it was fairly critical of him. And I don't think it was justified. Like, I agree with you. I think he came in probably with the understanding that he was going to be playing off Ross Stewart, and that changes the dynamic altogether. And I agree. I think that the first 20 minutes or so, one of the things I put was like, Jack Clark didn't look like he was into it, and the same with Roberts. It was like they were almost going through the motions, and the challenge is you look at that and go, yeah, we need to maybe change things up at halftime, but they have that little piece of something special in their locker that they can change a game with one. So you sort of go, oh, well, we'll let them sort of dally around or be in and out of the game because we know at some point they're going to do something. But that doesn't help, again, a player like Gelhardt, who needs that consistent service. And it's not going to be a cross into the box, even though there was the one where I think it was Trey Hume was nearly up for a header, but it was, we're not. I think you posted into the chat. We're not gonna score goals by crossing the ball and hoping that someone's going to get.
No, I think we currently have with Stewart out. I think only with and on the out players, we only got 2 players at 6 foot.
Yeah.
And that is Ballard, not Ballard. Ballard and Bath.
Yeah.
Only other player with 6 foot is Patterson. And then I
Ekwa,
think
right?
that is Ekwa 6 foot?
I think so.
But again, he wasn't on the bench. He was on the bench, so he didn't start.
Right. Yeah.
I'll backtrack and save that one smoothly and seamlessly. So from my perspective, it's pointless pumping the ball up. And too often today, I saw Bath was too quick to push the ball forward, and it came back way too quickly. And I think, in addition to and look, the last thing you want to do is just play the ball out from the back and invite pressure straight away, because we're not always great at being able to hit those passes we're trying to hit. Because I noticed that again, especially in the middle of the park, just some of those passes were under hit. Some of those runs, like taking on too many players, and doing it in your own half is inviting the pressure on from the get-go. So we got to try and find a happy medium. But
yeah, well, the challenge was the midfield. At least in the first half, the midfield seemed completely empty. I mean, when Luton getting possession, it was basically Dan Neil against everyone, and the way that the team was set up, it was at times it was, you could see, because when we're getting the possession, the only out balls were up and wide. So I think that the structure of the team sort of scratch ahead, and I don't know if that's missing the Corey Evans. Like, I think Mishu has come on really well, and he's another one that I thought had a solid game, but I don't think he has the positional discipline to stay in and keep the structure. And the same with Barr. At times he would be in front of Gelhardt, and is that because Gelhardt's coming back, or so the structure of the team is creating some of those challenges where the only option is to play that long ball out.
But the problem is, and again, I can understand having that only option.
Yeah.
When there's nobody at the end of it, I mean,
it's not an option, right?
Neither Clark nor Roberts are physical in the air. So
Right.
it's an easy afternoon for the defense if you're pumping balls up to guys who are no higher than a midget. Sorry.
Well, no, I don't know if you saw before the game, but the kid that came on the pitch with Patrick Roberts was about the same size as him. Like someone made a bad decision because he's standing there looking at the guy next to him. It's like put him with someone else and give Roberts a smaller guy, but it gives you an idea of the size, right?
And again, I think as well with the lineup, when your opposition sees the mascots the same height as your winger, you're like, yeah, this is going to be an easy one if they're going to play it up.
Yeah. Especially so Mowbray's comments after the game, he said standing in the tunnel with the Luton team as they were waiting to come out, and he said he was looking up and it was a bunch of giants against how do you say, a bunch of giants against a bunch of lads. That's so, I mean, he knew what was coming, right?
All right, so let's step away from the game for 1 second, because obviously the second half was a lot better. But I want to ask you a question. We've gone through a bad run. It's what, 1 win in 7.
Yeah.
4 defeats. No, 1 in 6. 4 defeats. 4 defeats, 2 draws, and a win.
Yeah.
Have we been sussed out? As in the way that we play that fast kind of almost counter-attacking football down the flanks, or are we really missing Stewart that much that we have no outlet and we're being forced to play a very predictable game? Or is this just the level of the team? Now that there's footage that teams have been able to watch week in, week out, this is just where we are.
I think it's a balance of all of it, right? I think that we would be a very different team with the team that we were playing at the beginning of the season, and so there's more dynamics in the ability to change and have, you know, quote unquote, a plan B. I think with the players that we have right now, you look at who's on the bench, and when you say, you know, we need to change things up, you're making like for like substitutions, and so the other teams will have an understanding of what's coming and knowing that it's not going to change. So if you can have a concrete plan to disrupt that, then you're going to be successful. But I think as well that some of the teams that we've come up against have definitely added that physicality and seen that as a area where they can, you know, bully us on the field, so that they know who when they're putting a team together that it's going to be physical and it's going to be aggressive. So but again, we don't have anything, because even like when Ekwa came on today, you know, he's a big lad, but he's not a Luton 9 type player who's going to come in and be physical and challenge people and get up in their face.
6'2".
So, yeah. And so I think it's a balance of all of it. And something just feels like it's off the boil. I can't put my finger on it, but you look at the performances, and I don't know if it's confidence or, you know, we talked a lot about fatigue, and I don't think it's fatigue, because it's almost like a mental gap at the moment.
Yeah, I think we've lost a lot of experience in that team.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about it. Neither Mishu nor Neil were probably starting midfielders for us in August or July when the season started. That was Evans and Embleton probably.
Yeah.
And obviously they're both out for the remainder of the season, so players have had to step up. And yeah, you're going to have those moments where those inexperienced players are either too keen to get forward or aren't getting into tackle the same way, or just aren't passing the ball around with the same assurity that maybe Corey Evans would. So I can understand that as well. I mean, we've got the issues at left back, but once again, Luton 9 steps up and fills in the gap. So it's and he's been good. Like he's not put a foot wrong the 2 games he's played left back, but that's what you expect.
I love the way he distributes the ball. You'll see when the ball comes to him, he's 1 or 2 touches at most. He knows where the ball's going before it arrives to him, and he moves that ball so well. The only thing that I would say as a criticism is had we had say Sirkin playing there, at left back, he would be advancing up the field, and Clark wouldn't be quite so isolated, because '09 wasn't getting up the field as much, and again that kind of changes the dynamics. You have Hume who was coming up inside a little bit more rather than going and supporting Roberts, but so I do think missing the players can change a little bit of the dynamics there as well, and how we actually play.
But look, I don't think anybody had a bad game today. Again, I think if we at the beginning of today's game, I think most realistic fans would have taken a point.
Yeah.
And we mentioned it on the group chat earlier. I think at the beginning of this, someone described it very Americanly as a murderer's row of games with Norwich, Sheffield United, and Luton. We'd have taken 4 points out of 9 quite happily 3 games ago.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the story of the season, right? Where you look at it and say, if someone said to you today or at the beginning of the season, this is where you'll be, we say, oh yeah, I'll take that because it's progress. We're clearly avoiding the drop. You look at where Wigan and other teams are that are struggling. But then on the flip side, you look at that and go, obviously, like you guys talked about on the last podcast, when the results go away and you're saying we should have got more out of that game, there's a frustration that kind of boils into it a little bit. But I agree with you. I think that a draw was a fair result today. And I think, like you said, there wasn't anyone who had a bad performance. It just seemed really flat, like they'd all been out for St. Paddy's Day last night or something.
And thank you for saying St. Paddy's Day. Living over here, obviously you hear St. Patty's Day so much, and I'm like, no, it's not St. Patricia, it's Patrick.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I mean, if I go through the team again, there's nobody, even Gelhardt, who this Andy, I'm not gonna really insult him as well, although he deserves to be for 2 out of 10. There's no way Gelhardt's performance is a 2 out of 10. But yeah, he's not getting the service. He's not getting the ball played into him in dangerous areas. So it's difficult for him to impact the game as a striker. Like, I don't think you could have put Erling Haaland on that team today and got a goal out of him. That's how confident I am in the way we played today. Although he might have scored that one in the second half. But look, question for you. First half, I think it was Clark played the ball through. Handball in the box, or hit the defender's ball. Is that a penalty?
No. What I wrote when that happened, because I knew this was going to come up, is it begs that question of when's a handball a handball? I mean, all the stuff that we've seen, the rule needs to change, because in other games like the Champions League game, I mean, that was a farce, right? But there, the defender had his arm tucked in. He wasn't moving towards it. It was close. I would have said, I always look at that and say, if that happened to Dan Ballard, I would have been upset about that. So I think, so, well, what's your take on it?
No, I agree with you. I'm of an older generation than most now that are watching the game. So for me, it was always, it has to be a deliberate movement towards the ball. And I quite like if the hand's in an unnatural position and the ball hits it, then you deserve what's coming your way. But if it's ball to hand and it's such a short distance that you can't really move your hand out the way, then no, it's not.
Yeah,
It's always, is it deliberate?
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And I think, sort of extending on that a little bit, I don't think the ref had a particularly terrible game today either. I know I don't think
we complained about the ref at all in the chat.
Yeah.
Although Justin and the lads seem to be more interested in drinking beer than chatting.
Yeah.
I can't say I blame them.
Yeah. Right. They probably weren't paying 100% attention sometimes, because there wasn't much to pay attention to.
But just as I thought that it wasn't a penalty in the first half, I don't think the challenge on the Mad was a penalty either.
I agree. I mean, it was.
If that had been against Ballard, or if that had been against Hume, we'd have been screaming blue murder. We'd have been criticizing the referee.
100%. The only thing The only thing that makes me pause was, like they said at the time, it was the linesman that called it. And from the angle, from his angle, he may have seen something different. Whether or not there was just a small contact on the leg, I don't know. But it was really, really soft.
From the angles that I've seen, it was all the hand. It was the hand on the shirt,
Yeah,
and then Ahmad goes down in the way that Ahmad likes to go down.
yeah,
Um, and I swore at him on the TV when it happened in real time.
yeah,
And then as the referee seemed to, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then the
yeah,
linesman goes, I'm like, oh well, I'll take it.
yeah.
I'm not gonna turn it down, but
My wife said, "Why are you not usually jumping up and down?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't think we really deserve that one."
no.
So, yeah, I think, but that's also a persistent issue. I think that we have as a team, like the number of times where Clark is legitimately fouled, but he goes to ground, and Roberts does the same, really theatrically or too easily, and the refs kind of sussed it out. They're like, okay, yeah, you keep doing this. I know, I don't believe you. And so I feel like they should ride some of those challenges sometimes and just be a little bit stronger, and
No,
it will benefit
and
them in the long
again, I
run.
mean, look, it's never been the Sunderland way to go down, and like
Right,
it's almost like watching England. Like England players tend not to go down compared to their foreign compatriots.
right.
And at times it's annoyed me, like when we've had these skilled players who get wiped out, and they try to ride the challenge, and rather than going down. But equally, it annoys me to see players going down at the smallest amount of contact. And a few
Yeah,
times this year with Ahmad and with Roberts and Clark, them going down and not getting a free kick has led to us being pressed at the back, and on a couple of occasions we've conceded from
yeah,
those, and it makes the referee. Obviously, the fans will go, "Oh, the referee should have given a free kick in that instance," and like, well, no, he should have got up. Like, I was always taught, and I'm sure that it's still taught today. Play to the whistle,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it doesn't matter whether Hong Kong Fui comes through and wipes you out, or whether someone grazes your beautiful flowing locks as you sprint past them. If there's no
Yeah,
whistle, you play on. And
yeah,
too often, I've been annoyed at and Mishu today for like a minute nearly was sat in the middle of the field. When he
yeah,
realized he wasn't going to get anything, he was up and he was sprinting back. And I'm like, dude, just stop. Like, look, they're kids, they're young. I don't say he's French, you expect it, but like you expect more from your players at Sunderland, I think, especially when it
yeah,
comes to the physical side of things. You expect more like the Luko 9 type of thing, the Lyndon
yeah,
Gooch type of thing. Like Gooch will
yeah,
get and will get knocked over. He'll claim the free kick, and then when it doesn't come up, he's up and he's off like a whippet trying to get
yeah,
the ball back.
yeah.
And I just think a little bit more tenacity when it comes to the physicality, the physical side of the game, probably wouldn't go amiss in those wingers.
Right, right. And because we don't have the players other than like no one's leading by example, right? It's so there's a challenge there. But again, Gooch, when he came on, he was just at it the whole game, right? Just exactly like you said. He'd be flying up and down the field. He's the first one to close the ball. And I think he had a good appearance off the bench.
I tell you who I didn't think had a good appearance coming off the bench, and I've been noticing him more and more as having a bad season, is Pritchard.
Yeah.
I think for Pritchard to be effective, he needs to be playing that attacking central midfield role. I'm not going to call it a 9 or a 10 or an advanced 8 because that's all wanky talk. He plays that Paul Scholes role really well.
Yeah.
Just off the striker or strikers, someone who can split out wide, but at the same time has the pass in the middle and then can pick up the rebounds as they come off, and can be a threat that way. With Gelhardt up front, it's not the same kind of role that he wants, and he doesn't seem to want to work for the ball. Like when he
Right.
came on today, there were a number of instances when I thought, go on, close it down, and he didn't. There were a number of instances where I thought, go on, take your man and go around this, and like he didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's not the game he knows and he's struggling with the way that we're playing at the moment, or whether we're getting the Pritchard who moved to Norwich and didn't give 100% at Norwich, or sorry, from Norwich to Huddersfield and didn't give 100% at Huddersfield. And obviously he's in a contract. Yeah, you'd expect him to want to get a new contract and make some more money and kind of secure his future.
Yeah, well, it sort of begs the question of is he not performing for the coach? Because under Alex Neil, he was a fixture in the team, right? And how much influence does the coach have over some of the players? And but I agree with his style too. I think that he looked a little disjointed, right?
I think that, so I'll speak in his defense because I'm prepared to attack him, so I'll defend him as well. I think when you have Stewart up front, I think you have somebody who holds the ball up brilliantly, allows a lot more options to get forward in the guise of Clark on the left and Roberts on the right, and allows Pritchard to come in. And if we're playing a second striker as well, it gives more options as well. So it probably gives Pritchard a little bit more time on the ball. He's not having to run around. So obviously he came wide left a lot this afternoon when he came on.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got Gooch who's playing that wing back role. Gooch is the right winger, not a left wing back. So it's like, I understand that it's not the perfect scenario, but it's not just been one game. Like he's had far more bad games this season than he's had good.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't expect from a player whose contract's up at the end of the year. Now, I don't know whether he's one of those players that we have an option on for an additional year. And so he's not worried about having to renew his contract this year. But I definitely don't think he's been at the races at all this season.
No, I agree with that. I think, there was a point where if he wasn't named in the squad, there would be question marks about why, right? But now when he's on the subs bench, it's because there are
better options.
Better options, exactly.
I don't necessarily think Barr's a better player than Pritchard. I think I still would rather have a fully working Pritchard than Barr at the moment because of experience and Barr's youth.
Yeah.
But right now, if you can't get past the 12-year-old who's ahead of you, you've really got to start questioning yourself. Okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to add to my game?
Yeah.
And it doesn't look as though, from what I'm looking at from a body language perspective, that he's that bothered about it.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one point, like say, when he was out on the left, and Gooch didn't make the run for him that he was expecting, and he was gesticulating at him. I think it was that there was just definitely something that wasn't quite at it there, right? So
So for me, if he's out of contract at the end of the season, I would probably let it run its course. I think we could probably bring in somebody younger on less money. The way that we've been developing. That would be better for us long term.
Well, I think some of it's the intangibles that we don't see as well. Like that there would be questions about as one of the older, more experienced players in the team. Does he bring that level of experience and mentoring to the younger kids? But I don't see, you can see the way that Luke 09 is with those young kids, and you can see that on the pitch. But you don't know some of those intangibles. But yeah, there would have to be some element of his experience being a benefit to the team, because this team's only going to get better.
Yeah.
Right.
It depends. If you listen to half the idiots on Twitter, this is our ultimate chance. We might be worse next season. Oh, something's going to be awful. We're going to get relegated again. I'm like, no. We've got. I like the way that the club is set up. I like the players that they're bringing in. And if you look at Anderson, I've seen Anderson a couple of times for the under 23s. When he's ready, like it's like having two Ballards. Like he's going to be that good. I think Ballard's going to be an outstanding player for us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
The only downside to Ballard, I think, and players is that we're going to lose them before they really hit their peak. But we're going to make bank on a lot of these players.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There was all that talk last week about potential interest in Patterson.
I think
Uh,
he just dropped £2 million off the asking price after that.
yeah, yeah, that was unfortunate. But yeah,
I mean, again, but it
because
goes
that would
back
be
to
again.
something I've got circled in red pen.
Yeah,
It's Sunderland set pieces, absolute shambles.
both ends. Yeah,
Well, which is awful.
yeah,
And look, Patterson's I think he's a fantastic keeper. No, he's not Jordan Pickford.
right,
But Jordan Pickford, I think, is one of those generational keepers that come around
right.
few
I
and
mean,
far
it's England's
between.
number one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I definitely think that Patterson has the ability to be pushing for England places in the future when it comes to the national squad for qualifiers and for tournaments, if
yeah.
never being the outright number one. Um, but yeah, so I mean, looking at that, I mean, the ball came through a crowd. Like they should have closed down a damn sight sooner.
That was my criticism of it. It was there was nobody covering at the edge of the box, and I think Mishu broke away from the wall to try and close it down, but at that point it was already too late. And um, that's almost the presence of being switched on and
Mhm.
recognizing when there's an issue, and it just didn't happen. So yeah, he got unlucky because it came through a crowd of bodies. He probably didn't even see it until it
I
hit his
think
leg.
Roberts took a swipe at it and looked as though he was going to get it for a second, and then it missed him. And
Yeah,
I think he was already committed to going beyond it. And by the time he stopped, it was through his legs. It was unfortunate. It was preventable. Um,
yeah,
and I think a more experienced team probably would have been wiser and more switched on to the free kick.
yeah,
Um, and I know Frankie was going ballistic about, oh, he's taking it 30 yards ahead of where it's supposed to be, but it was a couple of yards, and it happens
yeah.
on every set piece. But going forward, I can't remember a time when I've been less enthusiastic about getting a set piece in the opponent's half.
Yeah. Well, I think you put that into chat, right? What do you do with it? Because if you throw it into the box, we're not going to have someone. I mean, you get Ballard up from the back, and there's some potential there, but the delivery, like you said, the delivery's been subpar. They're better off just keeping it on the ground and
Yeah,
trying to work it in.
I mean it's with a vertically challenged squad. It's hard to work the ball into the box and be a
Yeah,
threat. I mean, you look at Erling Haaland. He's what 6'2" on his own. So Man City is spoiled for choices on how to get the ball to him in the box. Whereas
right.
Gelhardt's 5'8".
Yeah.
Um,
We think about
Gelhardt is 4'10". I mean,
yeah,
it's like you haven't got the players to be whipping the ball in. And I just feel more than wasting the opportunity of pumping the ball in the box, which we do metronomically badly. Like it's like
yeah,
it's just in it goes and out it comes. In it goes and out it goes. And it's like, okay, stop doing that. Play the short ball. Play the unexpected ball down the flank and whip one in low, because then you're gonna have bedlam going on the box and the ball's coming in low and with pace.
yeah.
But I just think that, and today was another example of it, how poor we are at the second chances, the ricochet in the
That's
box.
what I was about to say, because we don't win the first ball, and you say, okay, that makes perfect sense because you're going up against guys significantly larger than you. But we tend to not win the second ball either. And oftentimes that's the ball is gone, and then you see it on the flip side where if we win a header in our own box in a defending set piece, it's usually the opposition that recovers a second ball around the box, and that's um a lot of that's just wasted opportunity. But there's something not quite right there.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you do? I mean, it's like watching the Mighty Ducks and watching them throw the trash on and scooping up the trash, and like that's what we need to be doing. They just need to throw like 30 footballs into the box in a match scenario, and okay, just swipe as many as you can, because you never know where the ball's gonna land. You never know how it's gonna ricochet off
Right.
a shin. But it's just for the last, I think probably going back to last season with Neil, like the amount of opportunities where I've come away thinking, you know what, 6 inches to the left on that ricochet, and
Yeah.
Stewart was in, or whoever was in, and it's just like, but this season it's almost as if it's now the ball just seems to naturally fall to a defender. And whether that's just because we haven't got an out-and-out striker in there who's causing issues, who's putting himself around, who's opening up space for other players, or whether it's just we just don't have the footballing mentality and the brains to look for that rebound. But it's frustrating as hell.
Yeah. Well, that's part and parcel of not having finishers, right? The someone who's anticipating where that ball's going to go, like you said, whose only thought is getting the ball on goal. Because we have very few players on the team who the absolute focus is I'm gonna take a shot and I'm gonna score a goal. We've got a lot of assists and not many goals.
Yeah. And look, I think the delivery is as much of an issue into the box as anything else. Right. Just watching Clark throw the ball in the same spot and make it easy for the defender or the keeper to scoop from corners. Or watching Pritchard float the ball way past the last defender. I'm like, if the ball is going out to the last defender when you're crossing it, when you have a team of short players, you fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no two ways around. I was trying to think of a nice way to put it. No, it's like if you're missing your entire team, and it's not as if they're putting the ball in with pace either. Like, all of the best teams I look back to the Man United team in the early 90s when you had Kanchelskis and Sharp, and they'd whip the balls in. Like, Mark Hughes wasn't the tallest player in the world, but he got on a hell of a lot of crosses because they were whipped in and the panic defenses. I think with Clark and Roberts, the defenses and the fullbacks are waiting for the cutback, so they're not worried about them running around the back. I think that's why when Bennett came on in the set, he got around the back so easily. Why aren't we doing more of that?
That was something that that was a little frustrating to me because he came on, had an immediate impact, got down that right wing, took his guy on, beat him, and then 5 minutes later we made the quadruple substitution and played him up top. Didn't hear his name one more time for the rest of the game.
I gotta be honest, I was making bait at halftime, and I thought that we'd taken Roberts off at halftime. When I heard Ahmad's name, I didn't hear Roberts mentioned for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's actually.
I was like, oh, he's still on.
Yeah, it was right after they scored. I made a note. I just put Roberts just started trying because he had that little mazy run down the right hand side, and it was the first time that he'd actually accelerated. It was like all of a sudden, oh, now he's trying. So yeah, there was again big patches of being anonymous, but at some point they're going to pull something out that's going to change the game.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, look, again, it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, I thought Ekwa had his best game since signing for us today.
Boy, he's like an oil tanker though. He doesn't change directions or accelerate with it. There was one point in the midfield where he had like 3 or 4 yards on the midfielder who was Luton player that was chasing after him, and they just went by him like he was standing still. And I was like, I hope that's just lack of game fitness and awareness, but his touch was very good when he was playing around the boxes and getting a first touch and moving the ball well. But boy, he's a little slow. He
wasn't giving it up the way he was against Sheffield and Norwich, which for me was a big step forward because he looks as though he could be a player. I don't think he's going to be the dynamic box to box midfielder he said he was when he signed, but I think he's going to be okay. I have no fears long term from him.
It was easily his best game, right?
Yeah. And the other good news, obviously, before the match, you had Danny Collins and Frankie Flappable talking to Dennis Serkin. And it looks as though Serkin will be back for the Burnley game. He said he was just about ready. So that was good as well. It was a game with few positives. I thought we scraped the draw. I mean, we should have won it in the end, but I think if Luton had come away from the Stadium of Light today with no points, they would have felt very hard done by.
Yeah, I think they felt hard done by with a draw, but that was a fair result. I don't
think they can really argue a draw as been an unfair result. I thought they were, for a team in fourth who are trying to keep up with Middlesbrough for what could be a huge Sheffield United plummet. We'll come on to the Sheffield United thing in a second. I'm just looking at the stats, and they had a less 40% of the possession. They only had 7 shots and 1 big chance, right? And they scored from that big chance.
Yeah.
So from their perspective, I think they would have expected to come away with more than a point. I think if they're going at a serious attempt at automatic promotion, today was a big misstep for them.
Yeah.
But Sheffield look as though they could be in bother.
Really, when you posted that, I took a look and I didn't see anything. So what's the story there?
So Sheffield are currently on a transfer embargo. They missed payments on to Liverpool and another player. So they're on a transfer embargo. They're currently in the process of being purchased.
Yeah.
But they don't have the funds to make it to the end of the season at the moment.
Interesting.
And there was some information leaked overnight that they've stopped putting the undersoil heating on at their training facility. They're not using as much fertilizer and stuff around the ground because they can't afford it. They've missed payments to vendors, and vendors are getting really upset. And there's a real danger, according to a couple of sources today, that they could be going into administration. Now, the reason that they're on this cost-cutting measure, according to the paper, was because if they go into administration after Thursday, then the points deduction will go next season. Obviously, if they get promoted to the Premier League and they start -12, they're coming straight back down, but they've got that nice Premier League money.
Yeah, exactly.
If they lose 12 points now, not only are they not second, they've got a 58 points, they'd be out of the, they'd be 6th, a point above Norwich and Coventry.
Yeah.
And they've played some nice stuff this season. They've lost a lot of games, 9 games they've lost this season. Games they probably shouldn't have lost in reality. But yeah, they're one of 2 teams who could be screwed over this year by their financial situation.
Wow. Yeah. But I looked at both games that we played against them, right? The first game was a difficult one to really assess because that's when Dan Neil got his red card early on, and we were bossing them. We were all over them. And then the last game, it was 50-50, and they got some horrendous calls in their favor. I don't think that they, versus watching the Burnley
tore us to pieces the second half.
Yeah.
And the fact that Burnley are up next is frightening.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, Burnley have only lost twice all season. They've got a plus 45 goal difference. I mean, they're a hell of a team this year.
Yeah. It's impressive what Company's done with that team. So, but yeah, I mean, I say they look every part, but just before we start this podcast, I think they're getting hammered by City, which is no surprise, right?
I mean, everybody gets hammered by Man City. Let's have a look and see what the latest score is on that one. Oh, they're 5-0 down right now. Haaland's got another hat trick.
Yeah. So, but that sort of shows the gap between, obviously, Man City. It's hard to give anyone's performance against Man City and say how are they going to do in the Premier League, but Burnley the games that I've seen Burnley play, they look like an outfit that wouldn't be automatic to come right back down. With someone like Sheffield United, I don't know. They'd have to do a lot, I think, to be.
I don't think there's a way Sheffield would stay up in. Not even if God himself, if he exists, played for them.
Yeah.
I mean, that team is they've got some good Premier League quality players, but just looking at them this season, they haven't impressed me either game against us this season.
No.
I thought it was a harsh sending off for Neil, and I said it at the time.
Yeah.
Yellow card all day, red card probably not. And I think it was just the protestations of the Sheffield United players at the time that elevated that to a red card.
Right.
Against us, when they're going forward and they move the ball quickly and with purpose, it's a joy to watch. Like compared to our more lethargic kind of ticky-tacky kind of we'll get there eventually type of game.
Yeah.
But they're liable. They've got liabilities at the back. I honestly just don't think they would stand a chance. I'm just seeing the NASA chat. It looks like Ellis Sims has scored for Everton today.
Oh,
As we're recording.
nice.
So it's 2-2 now at Chelsea Everton. Sims with an 89th minute equaliser.
Nice.
So I'm glad. I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Wish he'd stayed longer to kind of justify the money I spent on his charity shirt at in November.
Yeah, right.
But that'll be joining with the move to Florida this year. The new office will have both shirts framed and up.
Nice.
But look, we're talking about positives. I think you look at the positives off the field for us as well this season, or this week rather. Michu and Bar both got called up to the France under-20 side.
Yep.
Now, I'm not a genius, but I'm going to be pretty sure we're going to have scouts at that game. Not only to see how our players played, but to see who we can lift.
Yeah, who's next?
And then obviously Patterson got an under-21 call-up yesterday, which was good for him as well.
Yep.
And then the best news of the week is that Lewis Dreyfus and Sartori upped their stakes, which meant that Stewart reduced his. He's now only got a minority sharing of 9%, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So things definitely off the field heading in the right direction. I know that Sean had his usual moan about being a tin pot club with no organization. And then promptly got shut down by the fact that, look, everything you're saying about how bad we are here, we're actively hiring for in numbers. So yeah, I'm happy with the way things are going this season. I really am. I'm happy with how things look for the future. I think I've got a reputation over here of being a bit of a pessimist when it comes to Sunderland. And it's well founded. I mean, it's hard to say they've broken my heart, but like if this was a girlfriend, she'd have been dumped a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's I mean, there's a reason that doing a Sunderland is a thing, right? When you think things are going amazing and it couldn't be better, there's always something that's going to happen that's just going to bring you right back down to earth. So,
well, like you finish 7th twice, and then you bring in a bunch of foreigners who can't gel with the team, and you get relegated.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Or you're going along quite well, and your star player decides to touch up 14-year-olds.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a good way of imploding. We really do.
Yeah.
Look, I will never be critical of Ellis Short's time at the club for the money he put in and how he wanted it to be a success. I just wish he could have hired the right people. I wish there'd been somebody around to say, you know what, these aren't good. Yeah. And I think for him, I think Keane leaving because Short wanted him closer, and I was like, things were working okay with Keane until Short came along. Yeah. But losing Quinn, I think, was the beginning of the end, even though it was a slow death. Yeah. And we never really replaced somebody who had the footballing knowledge, the affinity for the region or the club. And obviously we know where we ended up until last season. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's about, and I think that's something that the current organization has done very well is, regardless of what you think about the project, right, is that they've laid out a very specific set of how we want to be and to build a character of the club. And you know, the club back in the, you know, when I first started watching them back in the 90s, there was a definite structure around what the identity of the club was, and it was something that had been around for a long time, and it was shit is what it was. When in the 90s did you start watching us? It would be the late 90s, like 96, 97. Okay, so the Peter Reid era. Yeah, exactly. You were fortunate you missed the Terry Butcher, Mick Buxton era. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, before Peter Reid came in and you could see what he wanted to do with the club. Yeah, it was awful. Yeah.
Yeah, but now we have the identity, because you do lose that when you bring in the mercenaries and you're just expected to do this or that. So I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of positives both on and off the field. And I honestly think, touch wood, it can only get better. So we'll see.
So one of the funny questions. So local review this weekend, this week we're putting out a day questions of the day, and they were doing
Yeah.
like 6, 7, 8 questions in a row. And this one stuck with me is prior to Marco Gabbiadini, who we sold for 1.8 million in 91-92 season. Who was Sunderland's record sale? And this is something I think as a club we've always been terrible at.
Yeah.
And I think the other short years showed that more. Because I was looking at it, so I was like, okay, I had it down as Ali McCoist. I couldn't think beyond Ali McCoist.
Yeah.
So I'm going through the players that we've sold, like in value from top to bottom, and I'm looking at some of the players like Giacarini we sold for £350,000.
Wow.
And I'm like, how do you sell somebody that good so soon after spending so much money on him?
Yeah.
Pennies. And that just goes to show how poor our transfer model and the way the club was run was. They didn't care that Ellis was throwing his own money into it. It was just like, oh, well, with Championship Manager football, we'll have him, and
Yeah,
him.
get another one.
And we'll just give him a free, and we'll give him a low. Like, I've done it myself on Championship Manager. Like, oh, I'm sick of him playing. He doesn't do very well for me. Yeah, he's worth £4 million, but like, if I sell him for 500,000, I can get rid of him now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was what was going on. But I said, when you look at what KLD and Speakman are doing, it looks like they have a very clear expectation of the players that are coming in, the staff that are going to support them, the infrastructure behind them, and it's a joy to behold. I mean, it really is, and I hate to sound optimistic,
Rubbing
but
off on you.
like when Speakman said, we want an identity that is Sunderland AFC. So when we bring in a manager or we bring in a player, we know what kind of player we're going to get. And I was like, yeah, bullshit. It's going to be Hoof and Hope merchants. And I was like, no, if it's the Clarks and the Patrick Roberts and the Bars and the Pritchards of the world that are coming in, and eventually, like you saw with Brentford and you've seen with Brighton, what starts off as guys you're picking up for 2-3 million and selling for 30-40 million turn out to be guys like Ivan Toney, who I think they picked up. Well, they haven't sold Toney yet, but the guy they sold to Villa, the other striker, they picked up for 6 million and sold him for 40.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the kind of returns that I can see us getting long term.
Well, but that's going to be the acid test, right? I think is whether it's this summer or whenever, and we sell Patterson, or we sell someone that we look at, Dan Neil, right? Premier League comes along poking after Dan Neil. Is how the fans respond to us being a selling club, because like you said, the identity for so long has been to be a buying club. So there'll be a challenge to see how that, number one, how the club responds. They have plans in place if they know they're going to be off. Well, you would think, but we don't have a striker. But there should be plans in place to replace the talent and reinvest it into that next player. But in order to maintain the drive of where you are in the league, you have to have that plan ready and have the replacements available right away, right? So how they deal with that, because we're not there yet, but I have a feeling we will be soon.
Yeah, look, I said it last week with Jody. I'm okay with another two, maybe 3 seasons in the Championship if it gives us the solidity. We're winning more than we're losing. We're top half for the next 2-3 seasons before we go up, so that we've rebuilt the academy, because obviously Methven and Donald good at the academy talent. So obviously we've got to get that back up and running, and we've got to bring in players who can go through the academy process. But also just I can't think of the word. We'll use maturity. The maturity of the recruiting model. Like the scouts have typically just gone off and just sent anything back. But now they're like, okay, well, look, if you use Championship Manager, it's kind of like going, well, he's got to be 17 on his pace and 15 on his finishing.
Yeah.
His leadership's got to be at 12, and like you're getting very specific player types to come into the club. And obviously, you've got to want to play in Sunderland.
Yeah.
I love going home, but I don't want to live there. It's a great city. It's got a grip. I love the people more than anywhere else I've lived in the world. I think that's why I've settled so well in Virginia Beach, because the mentality of the people around here is very similar to back home. Super friendly. There's not a lot of douchebaggery, whereas New Jersey's just douchebag central, which is why I've kind of settled here so easily. And hopefully, when I go to Florida this year, it'll be equally like that, just an extra 30 years old. But unfortunate thing for Sunderland is it's got shafted by having Newcastle as a bigger city and getting most of the investment from government. And even when we had the Tyne-Wear redevelopment process, we still got shafted, and we were 50% of the bloody redevelopment group. So I just want to see, because I know when the club's doing well, the city does well, and vice versa. And I'd love to see a vibrant city with a vibrant football club and players wanting to go there.
Yeah. And I think you're seeing that with some of the players that we have now. I know KLD is a big influence to some of those. You saw Dembele was hanging out with him at the game, and I think everything seems to be moving in the right direction. So it's all positive, and I agree. I didn't have never had a bad experience in Sunderland, so it's an underrated city. I think
it really is.
People have the what they're told about the city and the area, and it's not true. So
no, again, it's got some beautiful coastline. Hey, look, has it been underinvested in? Yeah, but most of Northern England has.
Yeah.
Does it have its bad areas? Yeah. But at the same time, is there a friendlier place to go to in England? Probably not.
No.
And it's why I enjoy going home so much when I go. But I'm kind of like, my mentality right now is I'm pushing 50. Do I want to keep going to Roca for my summer holidays, or do I want to explore the world some more? And like the pull of Fiji and Mexico and stuff like that, I'm like, it's hard to want to go to Sunderland at times when you look at the alternatives. But once I'm in Florida and I have year-round sunshine, hey, look, maybe Sunderland will be my shitty weather week.
There you go.
There we go. All right, well, listen, David, it's been fantastic having you on. Before we let you go, we do have an international break this week, but before we have our next podcast, we have the Burnley away game. So we were lucky today with a 1-1 draw. Jody got us £35 towards the charity pot. That takes our charity pot up to £35.
Good job, Jody.
Good job I don't take the money out of the winnings to put on the bets. Otherwise, we'd be asking various charities for money to put the bet on for them.
Exactly.
So Burnley away. It's going to be a tough game.
Boy. I think Burnley takes it. I think it's 2-0.
Okay. You're more optimistic than I am. I agree. I think Burnley take it. I'm going with a 3-0 win, Burnley.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want us to lose. Looks like City have just put in a 6th against Burnley. So maybe they're going to be devastated.
Yeah. Their souls are crushed.
Yeah.
Or they'll be angry.
They're just going to stew on it over the international break and turn up and not play against us.
Yeah.
I hope so. But yeah, I think we write that game off from an expectations perspective, and then concentrate on the game afterwards. I think once you get past that Burnley game, I think we've got a bit of a easier run of things. I'm trying to be seamless and say who we've got coming up after Burnley. Hull at home, Cardiff away, Birmingham at home, Huddersfield at home. So that should be 12 points.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
And then West Brom away. Yeah, there's teams around us. So,
well, it's like Sean said on the podcast before. There's not a single team in the league that
don't validate Coxon.
Oh no, he needs to. I think he has to hear it. But there's no. You look at that list, like you say, they're all teams that the expectation is that we should be getting a result there. With Burnley aside, I don't think there's been a single team, and we smashed them in the first half, right? So there's points there. Let's take them.
So we've got what, 52 points at the moment? 53?
Yeah.
I don't know only on one occasion ever has a team gone down with more than 53 points in a championship season. It's only happened once. Very rarely does anybody go down with more than 45.
Yeah.
So yeah, 53 points right now. We've got what, 8 games left?
Yeah.
Where do you think we finish? Points and position.
Boy.
Now, Jody said 10th, and I said for every position that we finish above 10th, I'd throw in $25 to our charity, and he said he'll match it.
Okay.
Now, I'm not pushing. I'm not saying you have to do that, but it's curious as to.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Points right now, 8 games left. How many points do you think we'll finish with?
69.
Hey, it's a great number.
Yeah. Yep. Where would that put us? Probably
just outside the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd say 8th or 9th.
Yeah, and that'd be an excellent season.
Yeah, 100% it would be.
8th or 9th would cost me money, but I'd be happy to pay it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, if we get 69 points, because it is such a double entendre number, I will donate £69 to our charity at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'll join you in that.
All right. So 69's all round.
That's right.
All right, so we've got the game. We got the odds. Unfortunately, because we're 2 weeks away, we don't know what the odds are on that, but I'll update our chat and let people know. David, it's been a pleasure having you in. Thank you for stopping by.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you. It's always good to chat.
Hey guys, that's all we have time for this week. Don't forget to smash the like button, the subscribe button, and find out when we're coming on next. Burnley is the 31st, which is a Friday. So we'll record over the weekend and we'll have you out by what I hope will be our regular USA Eastern Time lunchtime on a Monday and tea time on a Monday for the UK listeners and watchers. Until after the national game, we'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.